We'll go ahead and get started. I'll call the meeting to order. And our first item is our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you please read our mission statement?
Marshall Public Schools develops the potential of each learner for success in a changing world.
Thank you. And our first action item is approval of our agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any additions? Hearing none, please vote. I'm working on it. There we go. It is approved. Public forum. Anybody in the public would like to approach the board? Now is your time. Our presentation time, our first presentation. Please be sure you talk loud into the microphone so they can pick you up on TV.
Raise your hand if you're not here.
Travis and I got the menu, Jeremy didn't get the purple menu like last time.
Our wives didn't call each other, apparently.
It is Vikings night, you know. So it's okay. You have young kids, so.
Right, that's what didn't have something else on it this morning.
All right. Well, thank you, Board, for allowing us to speak here this evening again, and with part two of our presentation on attendance. And this time we're really going to focus on our key components of truancy. Spend some time also talking about district attendance policies, steps regarding truancy at each building, and key building handbook points that are specific to each building. So that is the plan or kind of overview of what we're going to be talking about here tonight. And I'm going to start out talking a little bit about truancy and what that is. A continuing truant, according to Minnesota statutes, has language here, talks about and continuing truant isn't something that we talk about a whole lot. A lot of times we talk about habitual truants, but continuing truant students are students who are absent without a valid excuse for 3 times. If they are in an elementary school, so at any time during that day, whether it be a full or part of that day, and if they're older, it would be 3 or more class periods on 3 days, if the child is in middle school, junior high school, or high school. So, habitual truant, which I mentioned before, is probably the most common truant situation that we work with at the high school when truancy is talked about. And these are students who are 17 years of age or younger, and they've been absent from school for 7 school days within the school year. If it's one thing that a lot of people don't know in regards to that, if the students are in middle school or high school, and they are gone for just part of the day, so let's say they skip out 1 block of the day, that counts as a day towards truancy. So things can add up pretty quick if that is to occur at school. Lastly, on this slide here, I want to talk a little bit about school district attendance officer, which basically I function at here at the high school. And we have the opportunity to refer a child to appropriate services at 5. So what that means is, say, with social work, if people are in need of people from human services, that we are able to, provide those services, remind them of those things, We also provide them other additional information, even going back to when a student reaches 3 unexcused absences. And that, we have a brochure in regards to human services that we send out in the mail, and then also a brochure that's going to be going out to them in regards to just about attendance and so forth or whatever, and really trying to educate as much as we can in those situations so that people have resources that they can utilize. So talked a little bit about this here just a little bit ago, but day 3, basically, if we have 3 unexcused absences, we send a letter home to the parent. At day 5, we contact the family and set up a meeting, and the whole focus of this meeting is to really communicate to the family where we're at statute-wise, but at the same time, the focus of that meeting is to figure out what's been going on and how can we help, and to lay out, some possible solutions that we can look at in helps to get this student back on track. And so that's really the primary focus of that meeting. And if we get to 7, most of the time with that, if we could go to the next slide there, if we get to 7, that's where at that time we would make a decision with the county based on their progress since the day 5 meeting. We make a joint decision on whether we would file truancy with the court system. And so it's just not automatic that we're going to do that at that time. It's going to be based upon the progress that the student and the family are making in improving their attendance. So, okay. Any questions with all of that information that I've shared so far? Okay.
Michelle's going to talk a little bit about our district attendance policy. Michelle?
So I kind of divided up to the, I divided our policy, which is 503, it's on our website. I divided that up into kind of the basic parts of what is involved or included in our policy. And the main, or the first part is about student attendance. What does that mean? What is the student's responsibility? What are the parents' responsibility? What is the teacher's responsibility? And then the administrator's responsibility. And so I kind of shortened those down to little phrases there. And then what is the procedure that's involved when a student is absent? What is considered an excused absence? And there's a list of them if you look on, I don't know if you have a copy of the truancy policy, but things like illness, serious illness, a death or funeral, medical, dental, orthodontic appointment, counseling appointment, court appearances, religious instruction, physical emergency conditions such as a fire, flood, or storm, official school field trip, removal of a student pursuant to suspension, family emergencies, active duty in the military, a student condition that requires ongoing treatment, family vacations, personal trips to schools or colleges are considered excused absences. And then the ones that are considered unexcused would be things like truancy, absence where the student fails to call in or the family doesn't call in, work at a business. So if a student says they had to work today and it's not part of if they're involved in a program, a school's work-sponsored program, that would be an unexcused. Any absence not included under the attendance procedures that have already been set out. And so, things like hair and nail appointments and things. Oh,
Again, we already had one today.
practice as if it's serious?
Adjourn.
You want me to wait?
Okay. Well, we'll probably jump around a little bit. Probably one of the next things that we were looking at is just some key points from the handbooks. We'll jump out of sequence a little bit here, so I apologize for that. But I'm just going to go to the middle school handbook, and just some of the key points that we talk about is attendance. What a parent procedure is regarding attendance. We talk about excused absence and tardies. We give some examples in our handbook. We've got attendance letter information that we send home at day 7, 14, 21, 28. We talk about what's excused, what's unexcused absences. We define what an exempt absence is. We try to be fairly specific so parents are aware of what the procedures are, what it looks like, so that way we try to leave any miscommunications out of the process. We also talk a little bit about truancy in our handbook. Travis did a great job addressing that. I guess at this time, I don't feel that we need to revisit that. And we talk about tardies. We talk about our definition of tardies, unexcused, what the consequences are, what our procedures are. One of the things on tardies I guess I'd like to touch on real briefly is our PBIS committee identified, what can we do to kind of help that, because we were seeing a little bit of an issue. And our PBIS committee was a real driving force on creating a matrix. Okay, first time, what are we going to do? Second time, just kind of all the way through. And one of the steps in our process actually is, we always want to educate our kids. What can we do different? More, get away from the punitive and make it more educational. And the first time is, it's just kind of you get a freebie. The second time is the student's going to visit with me, and we're going to talk about what we can do to help that student. And then the third time, it's going to be me with a conversation with the student and probably a conference call with the parents. But one of the steps along there is we involve our school resource officer just to kind of say, okay, what other issues are there? What external problems are going on that are helping lead to this problem where you're not at school or not getting here on time? So that's just kind of the key handbook points from the Marshall Middle School. It's online. I don't know, do any of you have questions about our handbook, anything like that? Okay. Ms. Reese, I'll back up so you can, unless Mr. Williams
We're
wants to
gonna share
talk
it.
about, you guys are going to share?
Do you have this one, Tricia?
In elementary, we share.
Right. We have, a lot of the policies are the same. Obviously, it's the state statute part with the truancy, that's the same for all the buildings. And when Darcy and I and Deanne looked at this, we have the same handbooks basically for elementary school. And really, we don't see a lot of truancy at the elementary level. It's a lot of, if we have absences, it tends to be a lot of excused absences for kids for a number of different reasons. So we'll walk through, what we have at the elementary level is an attendance process map that lays out, similar to what Jeff talked about middle school level. I'll talk about what happens with excused absences, and Deanne will cover unexcused. So just following the chart, if student's gone, we contact a parent. If they haven't contacted us already, we make a contact to the parent and say, your student's marked absent today. Hopefully it's not a matter of the kids in class just clicked wrong, because that's a horrible call to make to a parent, and it happens. But it's your student's marked absent, we need to verify where they are today. And if we get a reason for it, following down the left-hand side, the reason is one of our reasons for excused absences. We mark it excused. I don't know if you can slide down on that, Tricia. Still, if we get a student where we get a number of excused absences, we could do a number of different things. We still make contacts with parents when it gets to be a lot, and just the conversation is, your child's missing a fair number of days of school. We need to talk about what's going on. And there's something we're missing or something we don't know about. Campus is set up so it'll automatically generate letters for us at certain numbers of absences. And then it's phone calls to parents, that kind of thing too about that. And sometimes those letters go out and parent says, I called you and we were on a trip and you knew that. Say, yeah, we do, but we send the letter to everybody at a certain number of absences just to kind of keep that information out there. And sometimes it's something, yep, we know about it. We just need to make sure we're all aware of what's going on and let you know that we do feel attendance is very important. And then at a certain number of absences too, it says some discussion may be used in here. That's a big part of that too. Sometimes if it's a lot of illness things, we might start asking for doctor's notes for that too. So we need to have doctor verification to mark that excused at this point too. And that's kind of what the excused policy is.
Unexcused policy is letters go out at 3, 5, and 7 days, unexcused. Want me to say that again? Unexcused policy is letters go out at 3, 5, and 7 days for unexcused. There again, I would stress that Darcy stressed to me that this just really isn't a big problem at our level. We don't let it get to that kind of a problem. I can share with you personally that just recently I've been in and out of a kindergarten classroom regularly with just those anxiety jitters of kindergarten. And, I noticed that there was an empty chair a few days in a row, and the teacher came to me and said, hey, this little girl's been gone 5 days. But mom's called her in sick. So we did have Mrs. Pfeiffer, our school nurse, follow up, and sure enough, she was very sick. So we just don't let things get to a point where we're going to let excessive, especially unexcused absences. Mary Borboom, our school secretary, does a really nice job of making sure everybody gets called when they're absent. So, the 5th letter, if there's a 5-day letter that's going out, we're definitely going to request a meeting with the parents. Even on this little girl that was excused, we still called parents and said, hey, is there anything we can do to help? We know she's been really sick. Would you like to meet with us and figure out what we're going to do for her work? 7th, for the most part, we are going to let Southwest Health and Human Services know that we have 7 unexcused absences from a certain child. So that's the unexcused in a nutshell. Do you have questions for me or Jeremy? All right.
Well, I guess for me, listening to this, and it's, especially at the junior high and high school level, to show that it is an asset and it's a benefit for the child to be in school, is to help them to be a success. And sometimes if you use it as a punishment, it has a negative effect, instead of saying, no, we want you to be successful and stuff like that. And I'm sometimes a little concerned about the automatic letters going out, that a parent could interpret that the wrong way, or a child could interpret that wrong way. So it's always good to have that follow-up phone call. Otherwise, they take it the wrong way, and then they hire a lawyer, and then we're getting sued again.
And a lot of times, I can attest to this, a lot of times as I'm signing my names on those letters, I'll pick up a phone call and just say, you know, we want to try to let you know that this is coming, just so it's not a surprise.
Right.
Try to be proactive. Now, I can say that it doesn't happen every time that I, you know, get those phone calls made, but I really try to make that a goal of mine, that if I know a parent is going to get one of those letters, to try to be proactive in it. But the other thing, and I think all of us administrators do a nice job of, is when we start to see patterns, and not just administrators, but the counselors in the buildings, when we start to see those patterns, somebody's usually reaching out to that parent and saying, okay, what can we do to help? And that's the ultimate thing, is what can we do to help the students? But we find out that there's times we're reaching out to help the student, but we end up helping the parents a lot more times than what we realize, I think.
I agree. It's rare that we get to a letter where we haven't already had some communication with
Right.
the family.
I think lots of times we're dealing with, you know, school anxiety, school phobias, and
Yep.
we're picking them up at the curb if we need to
Right,
get
a
them in
few
the
years
building.
back, I had a student working for me that was going from house to house, car to car, because he had no home. So it's always good to be aware of what's going on, and you guys do that, I appreciate that, so.
And there may, and it's rare, but there may be the instance where when we communicate home, especially at my building, and we find out that the kid's not going home. And so the parent might call a kid in, and they really have no idea whether they're there or not. And so sometimes they're thinking the kid's there, and we call, and they find out, oh. And so then that's an opportunity to intervene again and offer help. And so at every level, it's an opportunity to offer services, offer support, and connect families to support that is in the community.
And I would say our handbooks are all fairly similar, so I don't know if you as a board have questions about our handbooks, or if you feel pretty comfortable with where we're at with it. I mean, we could answer some more questions, but in respect of time with the fire drill and everything, I guess
Yeah.
we don't have anything else to add. I believe our next presentation, we're looking at October 17th, just kind of touching base with some of the interventions that each building has incorporated to try to be proactive and respond, as well as responsive to some of our attendance issues as they come up, so, okay.
Very good. On behalf of the board, I appreciate your dedication, all of you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Board forum and updates. Does the board have anything they'd like to update?
Do we want to congratulate Lath on being part of the homecoming court?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You know that Mr. Coleman had every one of his daughters became homecoming queen. I don't know how that happened, but. You're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
Any questions on insurance bid process? Anything you want to add, Mr. Lamprecht? or-
Yeah, I just wanted to give an update in regards to the insurance bid process. Our insurance year for both work comp and property and liability coverage runs from October 1st through September 30th. And we currently, or we had been utilizing the Brown and Brown agency for our work comp. That's the agency, they're out of Mankato. And our work comp carrier was SFM. And then for our property and liability, we were through the Marsh McLennan agency out of the Twin Cities, and our carrier was Right Risk Management. So in probably about June or so, we started an RFP process to review, and we don't do this every year. Typically, about every 3 years, we'll go 3 or 4 years, we'll go through this process. Otherwise, we'll have the agent or agency take a look at what our situation was and whether or not we needed to look at other carriers or whatever. And so this year, we did more of a specific process. And in June, that process started. And for work comp, we had 3 agencies that provided quotes with 3 different companies. Those companies, with Midwest United, it was RAM, and that proposal came in at like $83,700. Marsh McLennan came forward with a proposal for work comp through EMC, that's the carrier, at like $83,900. And then Brown and Brown, our current agency, came forward again with SFM, and that was at $84,366. And being that there wasn't a whole lot of difference in the proposals, and we are very satisfied with SFM and the coverage that we've had and the support that we've had. We have also an individual that comes forward for our safety indoor air quality meetings and provides information. And actually with the workshop, the teacher workshop this fall or in August, he was out and made presentations to different groups. We decided to stay with SFM through the Brown and Brown agency. For the property and liability coverage, we had proposals that came forward through Midwest United and with another group that's called MIST, which is the Minnesota Insurance Scholastic Trust. It actually is a pool, a property and liability insurance pool process, and we took a real close look at that. And then Marsh McLennan came forward with actually proposals from 5 different companies, Wright Specialty, which we had for like 3 years, Liberty Mutual, the EMC, and Hanover. And so we had a number of proposals that came through Marsh McLennan, which is the MSBA endorsed agency. I don't know if you've seen that over the past number of months, that's been said that Marsh McLennan is the agency that we should use. At least that's the MSBA endorsed agency. We did get, as I said, those number of different proposals through Marsh McLennan, but they recommended EMC, and that was at $88,433. This MIST, the pooling insurance concept, came in at $90,890, and then Midwest United came forward with CWG, which is Continental Western Group, and that was at $104,596. And so we decided to go with EMC through Marsh McLennan, which was the lowest proposal. The pooling concept, looked at that, as I said, real closely, but I think maybe we're a year off from going with that maybe type of concept. And again, it was a little bit higher than the lowest proposal, EMC through Marsh McLennan. So we have coverage bound effective Saturday the 1st at 12 o'clock in the morning, and so we're good to go. It was a good process. There's a lot of things involved with insurance and a lot of different coverages, and sometimes it's hard to understand all the linguistics and all the different coverages that in fact are out there and what deductibles are and the extent of coverage. But I think by and large we did compare apples to apples with all our coverage, and I'm quite comfortable with the 2 decisions made, both on the work comp coverage with SFM, continuing with that coverage, and with EMC on the property and casualty coverage.
Thank you. Any questions? School board goals. Everybody's seen those. They've been refined. Anybody have any questions on those? I think they're good. Action items. Moving on to the field goal request. Do we have a field trips? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I got that Viking game. Okay, the field trips.
Motion to approve.
just do a voice vote on that, or is? Oh, very good. And the motion was from Bill, second was
Matt?
Matt. Okay,
There's
we'll
only two of
vote.
us.
Please vote. It just changed.
See, this is just as exciting as it always was.
It is approved.
He's talking about finance.
Anything else, board members? Did you guys would like to report on some stuff? Now's your time. Did you have anything you wanted to bring up?
The marching band did pretty good this weekend.
How'd you do? Tell us about it.
We got first at
Sioux Falls.
Sioux Falls. We swept the competition. We got first both in the preliminary and then the finals. So,
Good for you guys, good for you guys.
a lot of the judges there are all like really experienced, and they've said that's like the best show a martial band has ever had. So.
Very good.
Great, congratulations.
I won't tell my girls that.
Or mine. Very good. Anybody else? School going good?
Yes.
Got any troubled teachers you want to talk about, or? None? Okay.
I think that's data privacy.
Yeah, that's true. Anything else, board?
I think the other thing to report is that the survey through Morris Leatherman will be happening, I think, starting this week. And it's a telephone survey, and I think they're aiming at like 400 plus contacts in the Marshall community, so
It'll only take about 15 minutes for the survey.
yeah, 15 minutes would be the length of the survey.
Excellent. Look forward to the results. Thank you, board. Meeting's over.